Well, I'd like to introduce our next presenter, our very first minister of the morning. Charlotte Paulson is the Executive Director of International Christian Adoptions. Charlotte, come on up and...
Good morning. I'm quite inspired by that after hearing such an amazing story and just of God's grace and His sovereignty at the same time, and being able to share our ministry. You'll have to forgive me. I have a chronic kind of laryngitis, dysphonia, and it's funny that I speak a lot as the executive director at different times, and it's funny that we have our slogan as voice for the voiceless. Somehow I'm voiceless very often. So I think it's God's way of saying, you do what I call you to do no matter what happens, right? And thank you, because Bob, you're right. You just have to do it today. So no matter whether I have a voice or not, you can hear me, because God provides mics at the same time. We're grateful to share our hearts, and I was hesitant to use the word calling, because sometimes you don't know who you're talking to. And calling is a word that sometimes we use as Christians, sometimes it's shared in public, but it really is the depths of our organization. It's the depths of who we are at ICA. The calling that we have goes deep, and I even remember when God called me as a 16-year-old. After the reign of Ceausescu, I went on a mission trip with my youth group, unbeknownst to my mother, that in Romania, it's a little hostile. But she's like, sure, go, have a great time. That was before social media, before you knew anything about that. It was quite eye-opening and changing for my life. It was changing because that's where I received my calling. When I saw children in some of the historically worst orphanages, if you remember back then, televised, some of the kids that were in death rooms and cages. And at the age of 16, either you're going to shut your eyes, or you can't do anything different. And at that point, I couldn't do anything different. And so today, I'm with an organization that was started in 1990 by David and Laura Duke. And they had the same calling, the calling to help unwanted children, the unborn, the desperate, the refugee, the immigrant, to the depths of their soul. And one of the stories that came to mind before I tell you a little bit more about our program is just probably 3 years after I started at ICA. We do programs for youth that come from different countries. And in Guatemala, there was 4 boys that we brought over from the United States, from their country to the United States, to be part of a program that we shared with kids that was more of a cultural experience, but Wilbur knew that there was also this other side, because he was 12, he was savvy, he was from the streets, from an orphanage, and he knew that there's more going on there, that maybe all of these people that are inviting him to, events and showing him a good time and having some fun together as an organization, that there was more to that. And the day before he left, he was sitting on the corner outside of McDonald's, because he loved McDonald's, so that happened quite often. And I come up to him, and there's tears in his eyes, and he said, I said, well, what's wrong, Wilbur? What's going on? Did you not get the right Happy Meal? What's happening here? And he said, nothing, I'm okay. And I said, no, really, what's going on? And he said, this is my last chance. And I didn't have to ask any more questions after that. I knew that it was his last chance. I knew that that's how he felt. And that's how a lot of our kids feel. And that's how God brings them to us, is often they feel like this is their last chance when they come to us. We're an organization that does adoption and foster care, and I think I can do this right here, if it works, to show you. No. It's okay. We're International Christian Adoptions, and we have a couple of slides. And I'm not sure if it's working or not, but that's okay. We're International Christian Adoptions, and we do adoptions and foster care for children both internationally and domestically. And so that means that we work with children in orphanages from around the world. We work with children that are in our own backyard. These are the kids that are in your, thank you, that are in the schools that your kids go to, that your grandkids go to. These are the kids that your next door neighbors at the restaurants that you're at. And you never know that that's their feeling too, that it's their last chance sometimes. Our mission at ICA, let me see if I can get that to go. Our mission is that we bring hope. And so when I listen to kids like Wilbur and I hear that it's my last chance, I'm reminded that it's not. That God is always in control, and that there is no last chances, that there is always hope, that there is always hope because Christ gives us hope for these kids. And although they might not be with us for very long, or they might be with us for a long time, depending on the program they're in, there is always hope, and that is our mission at ICA. We're there to provide hope, a hope for a family, hope for a future, hope for God's plan for them, and we're not shy about that. We're not an organization that says, no, we're not going to share about Christ. The county knows that, our state knows that, our federal government knows that, and at every moment we will share Christ, and we're not ashamed. We're not ashamed because these are God's children. And I've worked in places where I can't say anything about Christ. And when you work with orphans and you work with children that they feel that this is their last chance, you can't feel like you can't say anything about Jesus because you feel like a hypocrite. You feel like a hypocrite. And so when we work at different programs and share information, we will always talk about Christ. And we will always talk about the work that we do in the scope of what God's done in our lives. So ICA's programs, we're in California, we're in North Carolina. We do domestic foster care, domestic adoption. We work with birth mothers that are contemplating whether they are going abortion or they are going adoption. And we work with them to talk to them about what that is for their life and God's plan. And it's heartbreaking, and yet we're in the middle of those lives as well. We work with post-release services, which is children coming across the border. We're not always popular people from any side of the spectrum, from the left to the right. We are not popular organizations sometimes because we will work with whoever God brings through our doors, whether that's a refugee or an immigrant child. We will work and we will say, we will take you in as our own. And so our refugee programs include even children that are coming from overseas, children from Burma, children from Guatemala, children that are coming from the borders, fleeing from violence, fleeing from gang affiliations. But God is their hope as well, and there is no last chance. Our organization reaches children in your communities, like I said. It reaches our foster youth. And you know the statistics are constantly out there about foster youth and how many placements that they have. And if they are not cared for or don't have a foster family that loves them by the age of 18, they are out on the streets. And the likelihood of them becoming a criminal, going into prostitution, being trafficked is extremely, extremely high. And our mission is really to catch them at that point before they go to the point of being released from foster care, especially our children that are coming from the immigrant population, because those are our kids that are most vulnerable. And so our families and our community and the people around us are the most important to be able to work with our youth. Our children from refugee programs, we have to read their stories. We read their stories. of their plight to come to a refugee camp. We read that they're Muslim. We read that they're Hindi. We read that they're from all different kinds of religions. Doesn't matter where they come from. And then they come here and they say, the only thing that we have is our faith. The only thing that we have is our faith in Allah, or our faith that we have to get to where we are here. And I'm going, oh no, God brought you here. God brought you here. God orchestrated your life and placed you here for a reason. And it's so amazing how the families that we receive and the families that are drawn to us and the people that are drawn to us speak into the lives of these youth, and lives are changed. Children no longer feel like it's their last chance, and that there is hope, and that we will continue to provide that. There's a video that I just wanted to show briefly about this young man, and he came to us when he was pretty young, fleeing from a place in Central America, and his family sent him through the border because of violence in their community. Often we think, why would a parent do that? But when there is no other choice and it's between life and death, that's why they do that. And so he loves his family in his home country, but he also loves this family that took him in, his foster family, and they have changed his life. And he's older, and so we've had him for 5 years, and so he's just expressing a little bit of the hope that he has and the excitement he has to actually become the man that he's been able to become through the program and through what God's done. Is that working? Well, this is Selvin, and he is one of our top. He'll talk about this, and I'll share his story then. He will talk about his life in becoming a soccer player. And so he was able to do soccer through his family, and then they recruited him through a travel ball, and then they recruited him next through the state, and now he's playing at the college that he wants to play at. He's gone through all of that. And then his next goal after his citizenship is to then support his family in the country that he came from. And the hope continues, the hope ripples. And I hope you know that when you find purpose, and if this is your calling, and if it's your calling to also be part of the youth that we work with, then you'll also know that there's hope in the end, and it keeps rippling. We also had a young lady, I'll use her name because she's older now, Miley, and she has a special place in our hearts because just a few months ago, she came to visit, and she walks right in our office. She doesn't wait. She walks right in, sits down at my desk and says, "I'm going to be you someday." And I said, "Yes, you are, Miley." That's right. That's right. And her hope came from Jesus Christ, and she knew Christ in Guatemala. Her family knew Christ in Guatemala, but she was being forced to traffic drugs. And then she was being forced into the gang. And then she was going to be forced into sexual exploitation. And her family sent her over the border. We were so blessed to get her. We were so blessed to say, yes, we'll take her. We take guardianship of all of our kids. So I have lots of children. Lots of them, because I sign all those papers, and so they're all coming home with me if somebody else doesn't want them. But she is reminded every day of her family who lives in poverty. And so her goal someday is also to share her success with her family. And I've never heard this before, but she said one day, "I remember when I was younger and we didn't have any food, and that my parents said, if you eat these shoelaces, it'll fill your stomach a lot longer." And so they ate shoelaces in order to remain full, and so they wouldn't feel hunger until they could get food. These are some of the stories of our youth that resonate, that our community and that our families and people like you are part of. It does take a village to raise a child, but we need a really big one like this village to raise our kids, because we need people to be part of the resources for these youth that we work with. And so if you look at ways to advocate, host an event, provide an event for someone like Wilbur, who I mentioned earlier, who said it was his last chance. That's how he found a family, is people provided events to hear about what was going on. Provide a home package for independent living youth. For Miley, who's going to be getting ready to help her family, provide a package for her to be independent and help. Provide resources through your business for providing jobs or housing opportunities or scholarships for our kids. Pray for our youth. Pray that God continues to give hope and that it is not their last chance. Give a basket to a foster family. They are our hands and feet. Without them, we could do nothing. They're our hands and feet. To be able to love on them is huge. Get to know us a little bit more and be part of our advisory board. Be part of the hope and be part of the calling from us. Be a foster mentor. Stand beside someone that's trying to work through some difficult issues that you can identify with. Or become a foster parent. Thank you so much.